Did you know that we already have a corona killer that's very effective? Well, in this video, I'm going to explain how that corona killer works, why it works. Stay tuned. As you're probably aware, hand sanitizers are sold out in most countries around the world, at least in short term. But guess what? Soap is much more effective than alcohol sanitizers. Yep, you heard that right. Old school soap is probably the most underappreciated innovations we humans came up with, especially among men that don't wash their hands after they went to the bathroom. So why is soap so effective at killing viruses like COVID-19? Did you hear that? That was COVID-19. She's a scared little bitch when it comes to soap. Anyway, let's continue. So in this video, I want to explain why and how soap works and why it's so effective at killing viruses, but in very simple terms that you probably haven't heard elsewhere, and it will probably blow your mind, I promise. And I'll actually show you how soap works in practical terms with a virus. So soap has a unique molecular structure with two parts. One, it loves water, and the other loves lipids, which is just a fancy name for fats like oils, grease, etc. And its correct scientific term is amphiphilic. So essentially both hydrophilic, water-loving, and lipid-philic, fat-loving. We have all experienced how effective soap can be when washing dishes, and the same principle works when you're washing your hands. So COVID-19 looks something like this, as all coronaviruses look like. Now, by looking at it, you can probably guess why they call these coronaviruses. It kind of looks like the corona of the sun. Now, the outer layer here and this is the most technical we're going to get. The outer layer is called the membrane, and those spikes at the end are basically protein that bind to your cell, similar to like car keys. And once it gets absorbed into your cell, it can replicate its own RNA code here and make a bunch of copies of itself and replicate. But soap can stop this process even before it starts. Now remember soap's special property? Well, when washing your hands with soap, the soap starts binding to the lipids here, but also with the water, essentially breaking apart the virus because the fatty membrane holding the virus together here isn't very strong. And yes, you've heard that correctly. Washing your hand rips the virus to shreds. I told you I was going to blow your mind. So what's the catch here? Well, the only catch here is that you have to wash your hands long enough for the process to weaken the lipid membrane around the virus, and that's why you should wash your hands at least 20 seconds and add that friction. These 20 seconds are actually the time it takes for those membranes or those bonds to break the virus in half. And even if some of those membranes of the virus don't break apart, washing your hands will still pull or wash away those viruses through their hydrophilic properties of soap. Remember, they love the water and the soap. Now remember at the beginning when I mentioned that hand sanitizer isn't as effective as soap? That's because it works very differently. The alcohol in the sanitizers can break down the membrane too, but the alcohol dries up very quickly and you have much less time for that action to work. And hand sanitizer doesn't really pull the virus down the drain, but instead it sits on your hands. Now this is also the reason why experts recommend soap over hand sanitizers, despite people believing that hand sanitizers are just as good or even better than soap. Yet people are buying and hoarding hand sanitizers instead of soap. Confuses the heck out of me, but anyway, hand sanitizer can actually spread the virus because if you don't use it enough or you're not rubbing your hands long enough, and it can dry up your hands very quickly, creating cracks in your hands where the virus can enter. But, and here's the catch, that doesn't mean hand sanitizers per se don't have their place and they're not effective. You don't always have the possibility to wash your hands with soap, so it should remain in your virus fighting toolkit. And always wash your hands after you use sanitizer as soon as possible. So I said I was going to show you why soap is so effective at killing viruses. So what I have here is to simulate a surface that's contaminated with PEPVID-19, which is very similar to COVID-19. And some of the symptoms PEPVID-19 has a burning sensation on your tongue, where you can also get a symptom that's called numbtung. and it can get quite hot. But anyway, and this is a contaminated surface, and let me just put my finger right here, say I'm touching something, and now I have the viruses on my hand. But look what happens if I add some soap, like I'm washing my hands. Why is that so effective? And there you go. That's probably the most simplified and best explanations of why you should wash your goddamn hands and why you can actually kill viruses with just simple soap like this. So start hoarding these here, because you can always use soap, and you can use any form of soap. There you go. I also want to address you toilet paper hoarders out there. Why? Just why? What's your thought process behind hoarding toilet paper? So you can shit 3 consecutive years but don't have any food for the same amount of time? And then I see people stocking up on perishables. Newsflash, you can't stock up on perishables as the name implies. Then just why? Just stop it, please.